Cyber Warriors. The other video, my previous video, I talked about how we had our first Cyber Patriot practice for the Cyber Patriot 15 season and how it gave me an idea of about a couple of videos. This is the second video of that particular vein, and this is the PowerShell versions of the netstat command. So it's very similar to the other video, except this time we're going to be working exclusively in PowerShell. If you haven't seen the other video, you probably should go ahead and stop this video and watch that other one first, because there are certain lessons and ideas that concepts that are in there that will help bring understanding with this video. It's not necessary, it will help though. So for this video, first up, you're going to need an administrative PowerShell window and your favorite text editor. As usual, I will be using Notepad++. Go ahead and pause the video while you get those up and running. Speaking of pausing the video, feel free to pause this frequently to try the commands I'm showing you, or even your own variations of those commands. It will help you to be able to cement the knowledge by repeating the actions that I am teaching you how to do here, okay? And I'm going to freeze for a moment. And now we're moving forward. All right, so let's take a look at our PowerShell screen. You'll notice that in the background, I have the net results text file from the previous video. And this allows us to take a look at the PowerShell versions of the information that we have in comparison, direct comparison to netstat. So what we're going to do is first up is we're going to take a look at the Get-NetConnection. Remember, tabbed autocomplete is your friend. It is a really long command. I'm not interested in typing all of it. So NetTCPConnection. Wait a second. NetTCPConnection. Netstat does TCP and UDP. Is there a UDP version out there for us to be able to use? Is it not included in this? Let's take a look at the help for this and see if there's an option to pull up. You know, give it an argument and it tells us the UDP stuff too, right? So how do we do that? Obviously, it's just like Loki and Thor. Get help. Get help, and then our command. Boom. So here we go. It says right off the bat, gets the TCP connections. There's nothing in here about UDP. So this means we have to find out if there's a UDP thing out there for us to take a look at. So how do we look for different commands to run? Anyone? Bueller, get command. That is correct. And we're going to do star UDP star. These are the only three commands that are available for UDP. So there are two that have get. So let's take a look at Get-NetUDPSetting first. I'm going to take a look at this one and see what it gives us. Only the port information. That is not useful in any way, shape, or form. So what we're going to need to do is take a look at the other GetNet one. That is a bit more useful. It's more information, but it's also not very useful because it only provides local host information. We already know about our local host. We want to know about the remote and foreign host. Let's just say for right now, this isn't very useful. And we're going to take this particular command, put it in our pocket, and we'll save it for later. And we're going to focus more on the TCP one. So the TCP one is the more important one of these from a forensic or investigative standpoint. So let's go ahead and just we're going to clear the host just to get it out of sight, out of mind. We will come back to it though. All right, so get net, one too many T's, net connection. And boom, whole bunch of results. So I'm actually going to stop it, scroll back up to the top, and we're going to take a look at this. Right? So look at the net results text file. The active connections, right? So we have the protocol, which is TCP, local address, which is this one right here, right? The foreign address, the state, which is listening. Let's actually, boom, let's do this. Makes that a little bit easier to see and understand. Now those columns line up better. Okay, so we have local address and local port. These are separated. Before, it just had a colon and it put it into a different column. This is a bit different. This makes it a lot easier for you to look up certain things. Maybe you want to look for the net BIOS ports, 135 through 139. Maybe you want to look at all of the different potential HTTP ports, 80, 8000, 8009. These are common HTTP ports. It allows you to do those types of searches a little bit better this way. The remote address is the same as the foreign address. And notice that the remote port is also segregated from the other one. The states, these are very similar, but not quite the same. Notice that the other one in netstat says listening, where in PowerShell it says listen. So there's a couple of differences there. Applied setting. This is in reference to the firewall that's associated with that, where this is an internet-based rule. At least I think that's what it is. Pretty sure. I haven't found that particular setting to be of particular use, so I mostly just ignore it, to be honest. We also have the owning process, and what's missing? The process name is missing. That's not there anymore. So what we have to do is find it and pull it in. So let's look, see what kind of connections and arguments we have. So we're going to do get help, and it says owning process, but it doesn't say process name. So there's another way to check this. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the net connection command. We're going to pipe it to select object everything. This means every possible thing that it's going to be able to collect, we want to see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually restrict the number of results to just the first, let's just say 5. This is a bit harder to read, but at least in this format, we can see each one of these. Let's actually just take this down to the first one. Okay, so now this is easier to see, right? So the state, got it. Offload state, okay. Do I really care? Instance ID, certainly don't care about that. Creation time, this is an interesting one. Useful when you have a certain very specific time frame. You know that a particular piece of malware is introduced to a system. You can actually search plus or minus this time here. The local address, which in this case is IPv6, so it's difficult for us to see and understand. Local port, the owning process, that's the PID, if you will, from the netstat result. The remote address, once again, is IPv6, remote port, okay, not very useful. No process name, right? So in order to get that, we have to specifically ask a different process in order to pull this up. What I like to do for this is actually pull all of this into a variable using a quick and simple script. So here we have our quick and simple script. So this is technically one script. It could be all in one line, but I broke it out into 3 lines to make it a little bit easier to read and understand. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to here to the language. We're going to change this from none to PowerShell. And you'll notice that it color-coded things a little bit, makes it easier for you to understand what is a command, what is a variable, what is just plain text, a few other things. It helps keep it a little bit simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it into a variable. So anything that starts with a $ is your variable. We're going to create the variable by using the command Get-NetTCPConnection, and then we're going to feed it additional stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to look for specific fields. We want our local, which is the local host, local port, remote host and remote port, the state, and then the owning process. Those are the things that we need. Those are default settings and views that you have that you can just pull straight out of everything. Now the other piece that we want, which is the process name, which is a little bit harder to get. So what we have to do is we have to create a new object and pull that information from a different command or expression. So here we have the @ symbol and then a curly brace, and we have to name it something, right? So we want to name it something that we know and understand, which is the process name. This makes it very simple because this is an established name within a field from a different command, so we can use it a little more natively. And then we have a semicolon, and then we're telling it this is an expression. So instead of defining the variable or this bit of this object outright, we're telling it you have to go out and use this other thing in order to pull this information. So we're going to use the command getProcess, and we're going to use the ID. And here we have here we have that $ again, but now we have this weird, it's like an underscore and a dot, and then, well, this is familiar because it's right there, right? So what this is doing is it is actually taking the ID from this port here, and it's pushing it as a variable into the command here. And then we want to have this process name specifically, and that's kind of like, what's going on with all that? Let's actually take a look at this one right here. Right, we'll take this process ID. I'm going to use get process -ID, boom. Razor Synapse. Okay, got it. All right, so this is the process name. And to make it a little more clear, what we're going to do is we're going to make it look a lot like the command that's above. So here we have get process ID, boom, and it's only going to return just that one field, that one particular area. And that is going to be our new object as part of all of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this, boom, copy all of it. We're going to dump it down into here, boom, and it's now running. This is going to take a little bit because now it has to go through each one of the different processes that are the connections that are on the system, and then also question the get process and say, what's the actual process name for this ID? And here we have it. So now we have the information. So we're going to take a look. Oof, not very readable. It's there. All of the information is there, but it's that sucks to look at, right? So let's pipe it to format table. This is a lot more familiar, right? This looks a lot like that now, doesn't it? Makes it a lot easier to see and understand. So all of these things, the information is now available in our variable that we can actually work with. We can do a ton of different things, right? So what if I wanted to take a look at, previously we looked at the video UI. You'll notice it doesn't have the .exe in here. That's okay. We don't necessarily have to look specifically for the exe. So let's go up. We're going to add a new area here. And this is select object. And we want the process name. And we're going to match it. Oops, sorry. Not select object. Where object? All right. Match. All right, so here we have our variable where object, which is where we're going to match the process name against something we know should be out there. And then let's format it in a way that makes it easier for us to read. Boom, done. Just like the previous results from the netstat stuff that we did the other video, right? Boom, it's easy, it's there. We can view all of this stuff. But it's now in a PowerShell, which is, we can do a bit more with it if we want. We can actually even tell this to kill a process if we really want to do that. I'm not going to cover that in this, but that capability exists. There's a lot of different stuff that we can do taking a look at the information. But what I want to show you right now is how to make this a little easier to type as you're going through here in the command line. Format table can be shortened to FT. Where object can be shortened to question mark. Exact same results. A lot less typing. So what if we want to do something like state matches listen? Yeah, makes it easy to do, right? We still have that it's jumbled. We have all the different process names and all kinds of crazy stuff. You know, one of the great things about PowerShell is we can actually sort this information better. Sort is extremely limited in the command prompt. Not so much here. We want to sort by process name. Forgot to format the table, right? So let's go back and FT. Now is a lot easier for us to look at and view and identify. What's the crazy thing in here? What's the thing that doesn't make sense? I don't understand what this is. So what is this doing? It allows us to identify these very quickly and then move forward with our investigations. Being able to sort this makes it a lot easier than trying to do it all through the command prompt and all those other things. But how do we do like an exclude from this, right? So we know that service host and system. Remember, system was the cannot obtain ownership information. Notice the PID or the process ID is the same, 4. So we don't want to take a look at system. So let's actually do another thing in here. Right, so we're going to where process name not match system. Boom, gone. Whitelisted, system's gone. So in the previous one, we had to keep appending, right? So find /v this criteria, then pipe it to find again and again and again ad nauseum in order to get rid of things that you don't want to see. But with this, you just put in a pipe and service host goes away. We don't want to see anything about printers, so spool SV goes away. Boom. See how much easier that is? It's a lot easier to whitelist and filter and change the shape and view your information this way. So with this, right, we did an include, right? So the include is where we're matching a piece of information. And then we're excluding or whitelisting additional information. And then we're sorting it by a particular field. We can sort by owning process. We can sort by port. Anything we want to do, we can sort by. And then formatting the text so it makes it easier for us to read. It's really not important for the machine, but it's important for us as humans. So That's a lot of work to get that into PowerShell, right? So, it's 3 different lines, or actually it's 1 command, in order to push all of the information into something that is usable. And you can dump this right back into a text file just like you would the other, right? So we have our variable. Let's pull that up, and we're going to pump it to clip, just like we did in DOS. And then Notepad, paste, boom, there it is. If we want it in that human readable format, we have to actually do format text. And now we could do it again. So let me go back over to here. It's the same, and it's actually a good idea to push it into this. I would actually sort by the process name. So let's actually go back here again. We're going to sort process name, and there. Now it is a lot easier to see everything now. And you'll notice that with the PowerShell, there's no, it couldn't find the system, it couldn't find the owner. All of that is resolved. It has access to every bit of information, as opposed to the limited information from before. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about here? Again, we want to be scripting. We want you to be scripting. These are excellent things to add in here. Like, you want to grab all the users this way. You want to grab all of the running connections this way, running processes this way. Pull all of this stuff into different variables within PowerShell, and then inside your PowerShell start doing and looking at the information. Even if you have to push it out to a text file like the other stuff in order to have someone else look at it. It's very useful to be able to pull that information. So I didn't forget about the UDP version. So UDP doesn't have all of the stuff, especially it doesn't have any remote address or remote port information at all. It also doesn't have the process name. It has the same problem that we have with the other thing. But that's okay. I wrote a 2-line script to be able to pull all of this in again, using the same kind of idea, right? So we're looking at the same process name information, getting that, and we're going to push it in the same way that we did before. But you see that there's only, with our select from this, is different, right? So we had local, remote, state, owning, local, and owning. That's the only thing we have available. So I'm going to grab that, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to push it directly into, oh goodness, I had the wrong thing highlighted. Copy, once again, I'm going to paste, hit enter, and we can see it actually build it, and we're building the process name in line. All right, and then we can again pipe that to sort process name. You notice it's not writing it on the screen the way that it was before, because we're actually telling it, boom, collect all this information and now sort it. So it's order of operations. So now it had all of that and it sorted it, and here it is, all extremely unuseful. So yes, the information and capability exists, but from a forensics perspective, it is not useless, it's not useful. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. Good luck, happy hunting, my warriors, signing off.